The latest round of negotiations in Saudi Arabia on a possible resolution of the Russo-Ukrainian war, mediated by the US, mediated in inverted commas, has come out with a new declaration that there is now a Black Sea ceasefire. Again, I got to put the air quotes there. So what exactly has been agreed? Is it in effect? What are the practical implications on the ground in Ukraine and actually over the water to the south of Ukraine, over the Black Sea? Let's get into it. So, привit. My name is Connor Klein and welcome to Geopolitics with Connor Klein. And here we focus on the Russo-Ukrainian war and the developments around it. So the only real key outcome that has been agreed is that all parties, that would be Russia and Ukraine, agreed to ensure safe navigation, shipping, cease the use of force, and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. The rest of it is more aspirational, but basically, yeah, that should be, well, it's not really that clear, but basically they're not allowed to fire on each other in the Black Sea. Black Sea is the body of water to the south of Ukraine, so Odessa is the major port under Ukrainian control. You also got Mykolaiv under Ukrainian control, and then occupied Crimea, and we'll see on the other side you got the Sea of Azov that is connected to the Black Sea through the Strait of Kerch, and that has been under occupation, at least the Crimea, since 2014, and illegal occupation by Ukraine. So basically, this statement resembles what was known as the grain deal back, it's closer to the beginning of the war this time, but basically for a period, there was an agreement that in order for Ukraine to be able to export its grain, that Russia wouldn't attack vessels in the Black Sea. That was lapsed in December 2023, and by Russia, actually Russia wouldn't renew it. They were also checking Ukrainian vessels going through the Bosphorus Straits, that is controlled by Turkey, it's part of Turkey, and actually Turkey can control non-civilian shipping going in and out, and that is actually a way for Turkey, which is a NATO member, to stop Russian ships going in and out of the Black Sea and other military vessels from other countries. That's actually from a Treaty of Lausanne, I think it's 1923, after World War I. So Russia was actually checking the ships leaving the Bosphorus Straits. That broke down, and then actually Ukraine was quite successful in targeting the Black Sea Fleet, the Russian Black Sea Fleet, especially in the port of Sevastopol, and which is under occupation, Russian occupation, and they basically rendered Russia's Black Sea Fleet pretty much irrelevant to the war, more or less, because they weren't able to safely operate in the Black Sea, in occupied Crimea anymore, because it got hit so bad. Many of their ships were sunk or badly damaged. Also, when their submarines was also destroyed, well, it was being repaired. It wasn't actually out to sea or anything. It was being repaired on land. So as a result, well, having a Black Sea ceasefire on the face of it would seem to favor Russia because, well, their Black Sea fleet hasn't been able to operate. Both sides, to show the effect in reality, and again, this is just a remarketed grain deal, and now that Donald Trump and his administration want a ceasefire, I guess throwing the word ceasefire into everything is going to be good branding for them. But the Ukrainians actually have a few caveats attached, and so do the Russians. The Russians have said it doesn't come into effect until some Western sanctions are lifted, apparently, within hours of the US announcing the two sides had agreed to halt the strikes in the Black Sea in separate deals. The Kremlin said it would only take place once sanctions on a number of Russian banks were lifted. That includes revoking sanctions on state agricultural bank Rosso-Bank and restoring the firm's access to the SWIFT international payment system. So, and they continued their drone attacks on the port city of Mykolaiv. I'm not sure if they actually, if that violated it technically or not, because Mykolaiv, I mean, depends which way the drones came, I guess, whether it's violating that. But there you see, the Russians say it's not even enforced, and also the Ukrainians reserve the right, basically, to just kind of breach the ceasefire or say the ceasefire is over if Russia moves its military, its naval vessels, its military vessels out of a certain area in the Black Sea. So it isn't a ceasefire, it's not enforced, and basically it's limited to a very small amount of, I guess, material, and its effect will be pretty minimal. It would seem that it would favor Russia, but Russia doesn't want to actually bring it into force unless they get even more sanctions lifted, if they get even more concessions from the US and Europe, it would seem, by saying Western sanctions on this bank. So yeah, at the moment, there is no difference on the ground. There is not a ceasefire. And even if this actually came into force without these extra requirements from Russia, it's not a ceasefire. It's something we've already had before that was originally organized by Turkey and the United Nations. Yes, the United Nations already managed to get this to work for a certain amount of time. So the other things that were agreed, all parties agreed to implement commitments for a complete ban on strikes against the energy infrastructure of both Ukraine and Russia. Well, obviously that's not been honored at the moment, regardless, and implement the commitments is just, they already agreed to it. So yeah, that doesn't really mean anything. That's more aspirational. All parties welcomed the involvement of third countries to support the implementation of energy and maritime agreements. Again, doesn't mean very much. All parties will continue to working toward achieving a stable and lasting peace, again aspirational. And number 5, the US reaffirmed its support in facilitating the exchange of prisoners of war, the release of detained civilians, and the return of forcibly deported Ukrainian children. Well, at least that, again, is aspirational. We have seen in the last week or so one prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine. It was 175 for 175. These happen periodically throughout the war. Regardless, they're not as frequent as they should be. So I guess if we get more exchange of prisoners, that would be something that would be good. And obviously the release of detained civilians and the return of forcibly deported Ukrainian children, I think most right-wing people would agree that would be a good development. However, that has not happened. And again, it is simply aspirational in these outcomes of the talks, really. There's only one concrete thing, and it has not even been implemented. So yeah, it's at the bottom of my readout here. Ukraine will have the full right to exercise its right to self-defense, emphasized Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Omerov. So if Russia violates the commitments, so basically Ukraine in reality just reserves the right to say it's not enforced at any time that they see that they believe that it's been violated. So that's where we're at. We don't have a ceasefire. I did have some people who, well, one person particularly who supports Donald Trump write me a message saying there will be a ceasefire. It's been agreed. It just hasn't come into force. And yeah, but there's no ceasefire. That's the bottom line. And a ceasefire would be, presumably the war would stop at least for a certain amount of time. Not that certain targets like the energy infrastructure or shipping, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad for the outcome of the war on either side, or that it's a good or bad thing. And if the war is still going on, you're just not striking ships, but then they're redirecting all their munitions to blowing up something else, that civilian, for example, then don't see particularly why that would be something good to come out of all of this at all. But at the moment, the state of play is no ceasefire. Actually, nothing has been really achieved at all. We did get that prisoner exchange last week. Would it have happened anyways? Probably at a certain point. Maybe it helped speed it up. You know, I'm kind of clutching at straws to find something positive. Say, Donald Trump said there's going to be a hockey game between, an ice hockey game between the US and Russia. I don't watch ice hockey personally, and I don't see why that's something to celebrate, and will it ever happen? Who knows? We'll have to see in due course. So that is the state of play. Absolutely nothing has been really achieved so far, other than getting both sides to talk through the US to each other, that kind of way around, I guess. Or you could view it through the prism of, well, the US is negotiating basically with Russia, and Russia is happy that they may have something to offer the US in exchange for Ukraine. That is a lot of the speculation, especially in light of Witkoff's, the special, officially the American special envoy to Russia. His interview with Tucker Carlson reacted to that 2 days ago. So you can go and look at that and see the absolute train wreck of an interview from Ukraine's perspective that was, because it wasn't really clear to me, was he Russia's special envoy to the US or was he America's special envoy to Russia? Because he even seemed more pro-Russian in his talking points than most of the Russian government. to be frank. He came up with some new ones I hadn't heard of, that apparently that the Ukrainians and Russians have been fighting since World War II, about 5 regions of Ukraine, which I don't know where he got that idea from, but it's not the case. I'll leave it at that for today's video. Let me know down below in the comments what you expect to happen next in the Russo-Ukrainian war, whether you think there will be some sort of cessation of hostilities, or whether that's limited or a full one, whether there will then be a full ceasefire. Is there any possibility of a peace agreement by, say, the end of the year? Drop your comments down below in the comments section. And yeah, share this video with someone that you think would get value from it. Been growing this channel on geopolitics in the last month. Doubled in terms of subscribers, doubled in terms of watch time. So going in the right direction, and that gives me the motivation to keep going. Also down below, if you want to make a contribution to encourage me even more to increase the number of videos and the analysis I'm doing here on this channel as opposed to my lifestyle channel, then my PayPal is down below. And I will see you in the next video. Do побачення and Slava Ukraini.